Tom walked slowly down the busy street, his old black shoes making soft sounds on the sidewalk. His brown suit was the same one he had worn to his wife's funeral 2 years ago. It was the only good suit he owned now. The sleeves were a little short and there was a small stain on the left pocket that he had tried to clean many times. But it was clean and pressed, and he had hoped it would be enough. The tall glass building behind him reached up into the cloudy sky. Inside that building, 15 minutes ago, his dreams had been crushed. Tom touched his pocket where he kept his phone. No messages. No calls. Just silence. He sat down on a green bench near the building entrance. People in expensive suits walked past him quickly. They all looked important and busy. They carried leather bags and talked on phones. Tom felt like he was invisible. Like he did not belong in this world anymore. The interview had started badly from the first minute. Tom had arrived 10 minutes early, just like his father had taught him. He sat in the waiting room with its white walls and modern chairs. Everything was clean and new. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect makeup, barely looked at him when he gave his name. Tom Anderson for the 3 o'clock interview, he had said. She typed something on her computer and pointed to a chair. Please wait there. Tom sat and watched other people come and go. Most of them looked younger than him. They wore better suits and carried newer phones. Some talked quietly about projects and deadlines. Tom felt old at 34. When the hiring manager finally called his name, Tom stood up quickly. Maybe too quickly. His folder of papers fell to the floor. He bent down to pick them up, feeling his face turn red. The hiring manager, a thin man with glasses, watched without helping. Follow me, the man said. The interview room was small with a round table and 2 chairs. The hiring manager, who said his name was Mr. Davis, sat across from Tom. He opened Tom's resume and frowned. So, Mr. Anderson, Mr. Davis said, not looking up. I see you have been out of work for almost 2 years. That is a long time in the technology field. Tom had practiced his answer to this question many times. Yes, sir. I took time off to care for my daughter after my wife passed away. But I have been studying new programs and keeping up with changes in the industry. Mr. Davis looked up for the first time. His eyes were cold. Studying on your own is not the same as real work experience. Technology moves very fast. 2 years is like 10 years in this business. I understand, Tom said. But I have 15 years of experience before that. I worked on many important projects. I can learn quickly and I am very dedicated. Mr. Davis turned a page in Tom's folder. I see you worked for TechFlow Solutions before your break. They went out of business last year. Yes, sir. But that was because of financial problems, not technical ones. The systems I built there ran perfectly for 5 years. Still, it does not look good on a resume when your last company fails. Mr. Davis closed the folder. And I have to ask about your availability. You have a young daughter. Will family responsibilities interfere with work? Tom felt his chest tighten. This question always came up, but it never got easier to answer. My daughter is my priority, but I am completely committed to doing excellent work. I have reliable childcare arranged. That was not completely true. Tom's neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, helped watch Emma sometimes, but she was 70 years old and could not do it every day. Tom's parents lived in another state and could not help. Emma's grandparents on her mother's side had moved to Florida after the funeral. Tom was mostly on his own. Mr. Davis looked at his watch. Mr. Anderson, I appreciate you coming in today. But I think we need someone who can hit the ground running. Someone without gaps in their experience. Someone who can work late when projects need it. Tom felt his heart sink, but he tried one more time. Sir, I know I can do this job well. I solved complex problems at every company I worked for. I just need a chance to prove myself. I am sorry, Mr. Davis said, standing up. We have several other candidates who are a better fit. Thank you for your time. The interview was over. Tom shook Mr. Davis's hand and walked out. In the elevator going down, he looked at himself in the shiny metal doors. He looked tired and defeated. His hair needed cutting and there were small wrinkles around his eyes that had not been there before his wife died. Now, sitting on the bench outside, Tom thought about how he would tell Emma they would have to move again. Their small apartment was already too expensive. The eviction notice had come last week. They had 30 days to pay the rent or leave. Tom had used his last savings to buy a bus ticket to this interview. He pulled out his phone and looked at the picture he used as his wallpaper. It was Emma on her first day of second grade. She was smiling and holding a red backpack that was almost as big as she was. Her dark hair was in 2 braids and she had lost her front tooth the week before. In the picture, she looked happy and excited about school. Tom remembered that morning 3 months ago. Emma had been nervous about meeting her new teacher. They had moved twice since her mother died, and Emma had to start over at new schools both times. She was shy and had trouble making friends. What if the kids do not like me? Emma had asked while Tom made her breakfast. They will love you, Tom had told her. You are smart and kind and funny. Just be yourself. But Tom worried too. Emma needed stability. She needed a real home where she could stay and make friends. She needed her father to be strong and successful. Instead, Tom felt like he was failing her every day. The truth was that Tom had not just been caring for Emma during his time off work. He had also been taking care of his wife, Linda, during her long battle with cancer. The medical bills had eaten up their savings. Tom had to quit his job to drive Linda to treatments and be with her in the hospital. After she died, Tom was so sad and tired that he could barely get out of bed some mornings. Emma had been sad too, but she was also only 6 years old. She needed breakfast and clean clothes and help with homework. She needed someone to read her stories at bedtime and check for monsters under her bed. Tom had to learn how to braid hair and paint fingernails and explain why Mommy was never coming home. Some days were harder than others. Emma would cry and ask when they could visit Mommy. Tom would hold her and try to explain about heaven and how love never dies. But inside, he felt lost and angry. He wondered why good people like Linda had to suffer while others lived easy lives. Money became a constant worry. Linda's life insurance had paid for the funeral, but there was not much left after the medical bills. Tom's old company had given him some savings money when they let him go, but that was gone now. He had applied for many jobs, but companies always wanted to know about the gap in his work history. When Tom explained about Linda's illness and death, people got uncomfortable. They expressed sympathy, but they did not offer jobs. Tom started taking small jobs to pay bills. He delivered pizza on weekends when Mrs. Garcia could watch Emma. He cleaned offices at night sometimes. The work was honest, but it did not pay enough to really support them. And it definitely did not use the technology skills Tom had spent 15 years building. Before Linda got sick, Tom had been good at his job. He understood computer systems the way some people understood music or art. He could look at code and see problems that other people missed. He could design systems that were elegant and efficient. His managers had respected him and his coworkers came to him for advice. But that world felt very far away now. Technology had kept changing while Tom was dealing with hospitals and funeral homes and learning to be a single parent. New programs had come out. New methods were being used. Tom tried to study and keep up, but it was hard to focus when Emma needed help with her homework or when bills were piling up on the kitchen table. The rejection today felt especially hard because Tom had really thought he had a chance. The job posting had seemed perfect for his skills. The salary would have been enough to get them a decent apartment and maybe even save some money for Emma's future. Tom had practiced his interview answers and researched the company. He had even bought a new tie, spending money he could not really afford. But Mr. Davis had made up his mind before Tom even sat down. Tom could see it in the man's eyes. Tom was damaged goods. A risk. Someone with too much baggage and not enough recent experience. Tom looked at his watch. It was 3:45 in the afternoon. Emma would be getting out of school soon. Mrs. Garcia would pick her up and give her a snack. Then Emma would ask how Daddy's interview went. Tom would have to smile and say it went fine while he figured out what to do next. The bench was getting uncomfortable, but Tom did not want to move yet. Moving would mean accepting that this day was really over. That another door had closed. That he was one step closer to having to tell Emma they might have to move in with strangers or go to a shelter. Tom watched the people walking by. A woman in a red coat was talking loudly on her phone about a business deal. A young man with a computer bag jogged past, checking his watch. An older gentleman in a gray suit walked slowly, reading something on his tablet. All of these people had places to go and important things to do. Tom used to be like them. He used to have meetings to attend and problems to solve. People used to need his expertise and value his opinions. Now he felt like he was watching life happen to other people while he sat on the outside. The worst part was the loneliness. When Linda was alive, they made decisions together. She would listen to his work problems and give good advice. She would remind him that setbacks were temporary and that his skills were valuable. Now Tom had to figure everything out by himself while trying to stay strong for Emma. Some nights after Emma was asleep, Tom would sit at their small kitchen table and look at job websites. He would read posting after posting, knowing that most companies would not even call him back. The few interviews he had gotten usually ended the same way as today's. Polite rejection based on his work gap and family responsibilities. Tom knew he was not the only person going through hard times. The newspapers were full of stories about people losing jobs and homes. But knowing other people struggled did not make his own problems easier. If anything, it made the competition for jobs even harder. As Tom sat on the bench, he made himself think about positive things. Emma was healthy and smart. She was doing well in school despite all the changes in her life. Tom still had his skills, even if employers did not want them right now. And he still had hope, even though it felt very small today. Tomorrow Tom would start looking again. He would apply to more jobs and practice more interview answers. He would keep studying new technology trends and updating his resume. He would not give up, because Emma was counting on him. But today, for just a few more minutes, Tom let himself feel defeated. He closed his eyes and remembered better times when the future seemed bright and anything felt possible. 3 days after the failed interview, Tom stood outside the same tall glass building. But this time, he was not wearing his old brown suit. Instead, he wore dark blue work pants and a gray shirt with "City Cleaning Services" written on the back. In his hands, he carried a bucket filled with cleaning supplies and a ring of keys that jingled when he walked. The security guard at the front desk knew Tom now. His name was Marcus, and he was always friendly. "Evening, Tom," Marcus said with a smile. "How is little Emma doing?" "She is good, thank you," Tom replied. "Got an A on her spelling test yesterday." "That is wonderful. You should be proud." Tom smiled, but inside he felt embarrassed. He was proud of Emma, but he wished Marcus knew him as a technology expert, not just the night janitor. Still, this job paid enough to keep food on the table and buy Emma the school supplies she needed. Tom was grateful, even if it was not what he had planned for his life. The cleaning job had come through a friend of Mrs. Garcia. Her nephew worked for City Cleaning Services and told Tom they needed someone reliable for the downtown office buildings. The work was not glamorous, but Tom had learned that honest work was nothing to be ashamed of. He emptied trash cans, vacuumed carpets, and cleaned bathrooms in buildings where he had once hoped to work as a computer programmer. Tom took the elevator to the 15th floor where the technology companies had their offices. This floor was always busy during the day, but at night it was quiet and empty. Tom liked the silence. It gave him time to think while he worked. He started in the small offices first, emptying waste baskets and wiping down desks. Some people left their computer screens on, and Tom could see the code they had been writing. Sometimes he spotted mistakes or saw ways to make the programs run faster. But he kept his observations to himself. He was just the cleaning man. Nobody wanted advice from someone who mopped floors. As Tom worked his way down the hallway, he could hear voices coming from the corner office. This was unusual because most people left by 6 o'clock. Tom checked his watch. It was almost 9 at night. He moved quietly, not wanting to disturb anyone who might be working late. The voices were getting louder as Tom got closer. They did not sound like a normal business meeting. People sounded worried and frustrated. Tom could hear a woman's voice that seemed to be in charge. She was speaking quickly and her tone was sharp. "How long has the system been down?" the woman asked. "About 4 hours now," a man replied. "We have tried everything we can think of." 4 hours. The woman's voice rose. "Do you understand what this means? We have clients trying to access their data right now. If they cannot get to their files, they will cancel their contracts." Tom stopped pushing his cart. He knew he should keep walking and mind his own business, but something about the conversation caught his attention. It sounded like the kind of technical problem he used to solve in his old job. He moved closer to the office door, pretending to clean the water fountain nearby. Through the open door, he could see several people standing around a conference table. There were laptops open and papers scattered everywhere. In the center of the group was a woman with black hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She was wearing a dark blue business suit and looked very stressed. "What exactly happened?" the woman asked. Tom assumed she was the boss based on how everyone else was looking at her. A young man with glasses spoke up. "The database crashed around 5 o'clock. We think it might be related to the update we installed yesterday, but we are not sure. Every time we try to restart it, the system shuts down again." "Have you called our technical support company?" the woman asked. "Yes, but they cannot get here until tomorrow morning. And even then, they said it might take days to figure out what went wrong." The woman put her hands on the table and leaned forward. Tom could see how tired and worried she looked. "Days? We cannot wait days. Morrison Industries is supposed to download their quarterly reports tonight. If they cannot access their data, they will take their business somewhere else. That contract is worth $2 million. Tom felt his heart start beating faster. He recognized this type of problem. In his old job, he had dealt with database crashes many times. Usually, the solution was simpler than people thought. But companies often made the problem worse by trying complicated fixes when a basic approach would work better. "What about the backup files?" the woman continued. "Can we restore from those?" Another man, older with gray hair, shook his head. The backup system was connected to the main database. When the primary system crashed, it corrupted the backup files too. Tom almost gasped out loud. That was a basic mistake. Backup systems should never be directly connected to the main database. Any good programmer knew that. But Tom caught himself before making a sound. He was supposed to be cleaning, not listening to private business conversations. The woman with the ponytail walked to the window and stared out at the city lights. "How did this happen? We pay a fortune for our computer systems. They are supposed to be reliable. The update was supposed to make everything run faster," the young man with glasses explained. "The software company assured us it was safe." "Well, they were wrong," the woman said angrily. "And now we might lose our biggest client because of their mistake." Tom knew he should walk away, but his feet would not move. Everything he was hearing told him exactly what had gone wrong and how to fix it. The database crash after an update, the corrupted backups, the system shutting down during restart attempts. Tom had seen this exact scenario before. At his old company, TechFlow Solutions, they had experienced the same problem when they tried to update their customer management system. Tom had figured out that the new software was trying to use more memory than the old system could handle. The solution was to temporarily reduce the database size, restart the system, and then gradually reload the data in smaller pieces. It was not complicated, but it required someone who understood how databases and memory allocation work together. Most people only knew how to follow standard troubleshooting steps. When those steps failed, they called expensive technical support companies that often took days to solve simple problems. Tom wanted to help. He could see the solution clearly in his mind. But he was just the janitor. If he walked into that office and offered advice, they would probably think he was crazy. Who would listen to technical suggestions from someone wearing a cleaning uniform? Still, Tom could not stop thinking about what he had heard. The woman mentioned losing a $2 million contract. That probably meant other people would lose their jobs if the company started failing. Tom thought about Emma and how hard it had been to find even this cleaning job. He did not want other families to go through what he and Emma had experienced. Tom moved his cart a little closer to the office. The conversation was continuing, and the stress level seemed to be getting higher. "Should we call the CEO?" someone asked. "I am the CEO," the woman with the ponytail said sharply. "And I am telling you we need this fixed tonight, not tomorrow." Tom realized he was looking at Sarah Chin. He had read about her in the business newspapers. She had started this company 5 years ago and built it into one of the most successful technology firms in the city. She was known for being tough but fair, and for caring about her employees. "Maybe we should shut down the entire system and start over tomorrow," the gray-haired man suggested. "Absolutely not," Sarah replied. "If we shut down now, we lose Morrison Industries for sure. And probably 3 other clients who are trying to access their files tonight." Tom listened as the group continued discussing options that would not work. They were thinking about the problem in the wrong way. They were focused on the symptoms instead of the cause. Tom wanted to tell them they were making it more complicated than it needed to be. He thought about Emma, who was at home doing her homework with Mrs. Garcia's help. Emma always asked Tom to check her math problems because she wanted to make sure her answers were correct. Tom would look at her work and gently show her when she had made a mistake or suggest a simpler way to solve a problem. "Sometimes the hardest problems have easy answers," Tom would tell Emma. "You just have to look at them from a different direction." Now Tom was looking at a hard problem that had an easy answer. But he was afraid to speak up because of what people might think. He was afraid of being embarrassed or rejected again, like he had been in the job interview 3 days ago. But as Tom listened to Sarah Chen's voice getting more frustrated, he thought about all the people who worked in this building. Secretaries and programmers and managers and salespeople who depended on their jobs to feed their families. If this company failed, dozens of people would be in the same situation Tom was in. Looking for work, struggling to pay bills, worrying about their children's futures. Tom made a decision. He quietly parked his cleaning cart against the wall and walked toward the office door. His heart was pounding and his hands were shaking slightly. He had no idea how these people would react to advice from a janitor, but he had to try. As Tom approached the doorway, he could hear Sarah talking to someone on the phone. "Yes, I understand your company cannot send anyone until tomorrow, but tomorrow might be too late," she was saying. "Is there no one available for emergency calls?" Tom stopped just outside the door. Through the opening, he could see the whole group. There were 5 people total, all looking tired and worried. Computer screens showed error messages and diagnostic programs that were not finding solutions. Tom took a deep breath and knocked gently on the door frame. Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Sarah Chen ended her phone call and stared at Tom with surprise. "I am sorry to interrupt," Tom said quietly. "I am with the cleaning service. I could not help but overhear your conversation about the database problem. The young man with glasses looked annoyed. "Sir, this is a private meeting. We are dealing with technical issues." But Sarah Chen held up her hand to stop him. She looked at Tom with curiosity rather than anger. "You said you overheard our conversation about the database. Do you know something about computer systems?" Tom felt his face getting warm, but he continued. "I used to work in technology before I took this cleaning job. I heard you describe the symptoms of your system crash, and I think I might know what is causing the problem." The room was completely quiet. Everyone was staring at Tom like he had said something impossible. The gray-haired man looked skeptical. The young man with glasses seemed irritated. But Sarah Chen was listening. "Go on," she said. Tom stepped carefully into the office, feeling very aware of his work clothes and the smell of cleaning supplies on his hands. But he focused on the technical problem, which was something he understood completely. "From what I heard, your database crashed after you installed an update yesterday, and now it shuts down every time you try to restart it. Is that correct?" "Yes," Sarah said. "How did you know that?" "I have seen this exact problem before," Tom explained. "The new software update is probably trying to use more memory than your system can provide. When the database tries to load all the information at once, it runs out of memory and crashes." The young man with glasses crossed his arms. "We already checked the memory usage. That is not the problem." But Tom could see from Sarah's expression that she was interested in hearing more. "What would you suggest?" she asked. Tom felt a surge of confidence as he moved into familiar territory. "The solution is to temporarily reduce the database load, restart the system with minimal data, and then gradually reload the information in smaller sections. It requires some manual work, but it should have your system running normally within an hour." The room was silent again. Tom could feel everyone evaluating what he had said. He waited, knowing that his suggestion either made sense to them or it did not. Finally, Sarah Chen spoke. "That actually sounds logical. Why has no one else suggested this approach?" The gray-haired man looked uncomfortable. "Because it is risky. If something goes wrong while we are manually moving data, we could lose everything." Tom nodded. "That is a valid concern. But right now, you cannot access anything anyway. And if you wait until tomorrow, you might lose your biggest client. Sometimes you have to take a calculated risk." Sarah Chen looked around the room at her team, then back at Tom. Her expression was thoughtful and determined. "What is your name?" she asked. "Tom Anderson," he replied. "Tom Anderson," Sarah repeated. "Would you be willing to help us try your solution?" Tom walked slowly to the nearest computer terminal, his cleaning uniform feeling strange in the high-tech office environment. His hands trembled slightly as he sat down in front of the screen. It had been 2 years since he had worked on a professional computer system, but the familiar glow of the monitor brought back memories of his old life. "Are you sure about this?" the gray-haired man asked nervously. "If we make things worse, we could lose everything." Sarah Chen stood behind Tom's chair, watching carefully. "What is the worst that could happen?" she asked. Tom looked up at her. "Right now, your system is completely down. The worst thing that could happen is that it stays down. But I am confident this approach will work." He turned back to the computer and began typing commands. His fingers moved automatically across the keyboard, muscle memory taking over. Within minutes, Tom had accessed the database control panel and began analyzing the system logs. "Here is the problem," Tom said, pointing to lines of code on the screen. "The update installed yesterday increased the memory requirements by 40%. But your system is trying to load the entire database at startup, which exceeds your available memory." The young man with glasses leaned closer to look at the screen. "How can you tell that just from looking at the logs?" Tom smiled for the first time in days. "Experience. I dealt with this exact issue at my previous job. The error codes all point to the same thing: memory overflow during database initialization. Sarah Chen pulled up a chair next to Tom. What do we need to do? First, we need to create a temporary partition with just the essential data, Tom explained as he worked. Then we restart the system with this smaller load. Once everything is running stable, we can gradually add back the rest of the information in manageable chunks. Tom's confidence grew as he worked through the problem. His hands moved quickly across the keyboard, typing commands that would have taken other technicians hours to research. He created backup copies of critical files, modified configuration settings, and prepared the database for a controlled restart. "This is incredible," Sarah whispered to her team. "He is doing in 20 minutes what our technical support company said would take days." The gray-haired man looked impressed despite his earlier doubts. "Where did you learn to do this?" Tom continued working while he answered. "I spent 15 years in technology before I took the cleaning job. I specialized in database management and system recovery." "What company did you work for?" Sarah asked. "TechFlow Solutions," Tom replied. "I was their senior systems analyst until the company closed." Sarah's eyes widened. "I remember TechFlow. They had an excellent reputation for reliable systems. Why are you working as a janitor now?" Tom paused his typing for a moment. The question was direct and deserved an honest answer. "My wife died from cancer 2 years ago. I had to quit my job to take care of her and our daughter. After she passed away, I could not find another technology position. Companies said I had been out of the field too long." The room became quiet except for the soft humming of computer equipment. Tom could feel everyone looking at him with surprise and sympathy. He turned back to the screen and continued working, not wanting their pity. "You have a daughter?" Sarah asked softly. "Yes. Emma is 8 years old. She is the reason I need this system to work tonight. This cleaning job helps pay our rent, but I would rather be solving problems like this one." Tom finished the preliminary setup and prepared to restart the database system. "Everyone should step back a little. If this does not work correctly, the system might shut down hard and we will be back where we started." Sarah and her team moved away from the computers while Tom initiated the restart sequence. Lines of code scrolled across multiple monitors as the system began loading with the reduced data set. Tom watched carefully, monitoring memory usage and system performance indicators. After 5 tense minutes, a green message appeared on the main screen: "Database online, initialization complete." "It worked," the young man with glasses shouted. Tom allowed himself a small smile, but he was not finished yet. "This is just the first step. Now we need to reload the rest of the data carefully. If we try to add too much too quickly, the system will crash again." For the next 30 minutes, Tom methodically restored sections of the database. He monitored system performance at each step, making sure the memory usage stayed within safe limits. Sarah and her team watched in amazement as tables of customer information, financial records, and project files came back online one by one. "How do you know exactly how much data to add at each step?" Sarah asked. Tom pointed to graphs on his screen showing memory usage and processing speed. "You have to watch the system's behavior and adjust accordingly. Each database is different, like a fingerprint. You learn to read the signs and respond before problems occur." By 10:30 that night, the entire system was running normally again. Tom ran several diagnostic tests to make sure everything was stable. All the error messages had disappeared, and the system was actually running faster than it had before the crash. "Morrison Industries should be able to access their files now," Tom announced. Sarah immediately called the client to confirm their system was working. After a brief conversation, she hung up the phone with a huge smile. They got their quarterly reports downloaded successfully. They said the system is running better than it has in months. The entire team cheered and congratulated each other. Tom quietly began closing the programs he had used and shutting down the diagnostic tools. "Wait," Sarah said. "Where are you going?" Tom looked confused. Back to my cleaning work. I still have 6 more floors to finish tonight. Sarah stared at him in disbelief. You just saved our company millions of dollars and dozens of jobs, and you want to go back to emptying trash cans? That is the job I was hired to do, Tom replied simply. Sarah shook her head. Not anymore. I want to offer you a position here as our head of systems security. You just proved you have exactly the skills we need. Tom felt his heart jump, but he tried to stay calm. I appreciate the offer, but 3 days ago your human resources department rejected my application for a much lower position. They said I had been out of work too long and that my skills were outdated. Sarah's expression changed from excitement to anger. What? You interviewed here this week? Monday afternoon. With Mr. Davis in Human Resources. He said I was not qualified because of my employment gap. Sarah turned to the gray-haired man. Get Davis on the phone right now. I want to talk to him immediately. It is almost 11 o'clock at night, the man replied. I do not care what time it is. This is unacceptable. Sarah turned back to Tom. I am deeply sorry about what happened in that interview. Mr. Davis clearly has no idea how to recognize talent. You just demonstrated more technical expertise in one evening than most people show in months. Tom did not know what to say. 3 days ago, he had felt worthless and rejected. Now the CEO of a major company was apologizing to him and offering him a job. I need to think about this, Tom said quietly. And I need to discuss it with my daughter. Of course, Sarah replied. But I hope you will seriously consider joining our team. We need people who can solve problems under pressure and think creatively. Those are rare qualities. Sarah handed Tom her business card. Come see me tomorrow afternoon. We will discuss salary, benefits, and schedule flexibility. I want to make sure this works for you and your daughter. As Tom rode the bus home that night, he could barely believe what had happened. In his pocket, he carried Sarah Chen's business card and a job offer that could change his and Emma's life completely. When Tom arrived at their small apartment, Mrs. Garcia was waiting with good news about Emma's day at school. Emma was already asleep, but Tom quietly checked on her. She looked peaceful and safe in her small bed, surrounded by the stuffed animals that had comforted her since her mother's death. Tom sat at their kitchen table and called the number on Sarah's business card. She answered on the first ring. I wanted to let you know that I accept your offer, Tom said. That is wonderful news. Can you start Monday morning? Yes. And thank you for seeing my potential when others could not. Thank you for saving our company, Sarah replied. I have a feeling this is the beginning of a great partnership. 6 months later, Tom stood in the backyard of their new house, watching Emma play on the swing set he had installed the previous weekend. The house was not large, but it had 3 bedrooms, a real kitchen, and a yard where Emma could play safely. Emma's new school was excellent, and she had made several close friends. Her grades were improving, and she seemed happier and more confident every day. Tom had been able to buy her new clothes, school supplies, and even a bicycle for her birthday. At work, Tom had quickly earned the respect of his colleagues and clients. His innovative approaches to system security had prevented 3 major problems and saved the company significant money. Sarah had promoted him twice, and he now managed a team of 5 other programmers. But the most important change was not financial. Tom felt like himself again. He had purpose and confidence. He was using his skills to solve meaningful problems and help other people succeed. One evening, as Tom was tucking Emma into bed, she looked up at him with serious eyes. Daddy, are you happy now? She asked. Tom smiled and kissed her forehead. Very happy, sweetheart. Why do you ask? You smile more now. And you do not look worried all the time like you did before. Tom realized that Emma had been watching and worrying about him more than he had understood. Children noticed everything, even when parents thought they were hiding their struggles. I was worried for a while, Tom admitted. But things are better now. We have a good home and I have work that I enjoy. Most importantly, I have you. Emma hugged him tightly. I am proud of you, Daddy. Mrs. Garcia says you are very smart and that other people are lucky to work with you. As Tom turned off Emma's light and closed her bedroom door, he reflected on how dramatically their lives had changed. Sometimes opportunities came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes being overlooked and underestimated actually positioned you perfectly to see solutions that others missed. Tom had learned that success was not just about having the right skills or education. It was also about perseverance, timing, and the willingness to take risks when opportunities presented themselves. Most importantly, it was about never giving up on yourself, even when others had given up on you. The next morning at work, Sarah stopped by Tom's office to discuss a new project. I have been thinking about what happened the night you helped us with the database crash, she said. I want to create a program to identify talented people who might be overlooked by traditional hiring practices. Tom looked up from his computer with interest. What kind of program? Skills-based interviews that focus on problem-solving ability rather than just resume credentials. I think there are probably other people like you out there, capable professionals who have been dismissed because of employment gaps or other circumstances beyond their control. Tom smiled, remembering his own experience with Mr. Davis and the standard interview process that had nearly cost him this opportunity. I think that is an excellent idea, Tom said. Some of the best solutions come from people who have faced real challenges and learned to think creatively. Sarah nodded. Would you be willing to help me develop this program? I want to make sure we never miss another opportunity to work with someone as talented as you. Tom thought about all the other parents and workers who might be struggling the way he had struggled. People with valuable skills who just needed someone to give them a chance to prove themselves. I would be honored to help, Tom replied. As Sarah left his office, Tom looked out the window at the city below. Somewhere out there, other people were facing the same challenges he had overcome. With hard work, perseverance, and a little bit of luck, maybe their stories could have happy endings too.